Coming up, no wheel, no problem. When you need to come down fast, we can help with that. Flying the Global 6000 in a place where they love general aviation. AOPA Live this week begins right now. A dramatic at-sea rescue of a seaplane is our top story. Hello and welcome to AOPA Live this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tom Haynes. The Coast Guard rescued 2 people from a downed Cessna seaplane Sunday off the Monterey coast of California. 2 MH-65 helicopters responded to a mayday some 38 miles northwest of Morro Bay. They found a Cessna on floats upside down in the water. The Coast Guard says they found the aircraft quickly because the pilot owner had a personal locator beacon with a GPS. The 2 people on board were not injured. A legend in both the air show and warbird circles died last Friday in an aircraft accident. Robert Odegaard was at the controls of this F-2G Super Corsair that he had restored. The video is from the aircraft's first flight. He was practicing for the Barnes County Airport Air Show in North Dakota. Witnesses say it looked like he couldn't pull out of a loop. As a result of the accident, the air show was canceled. Well, the FAA this week issued a type certificate to the ultra-large cabin, ultra-long-range Gulfstream G650. The $64.5 million airplane will carry 8 passengers and a crew of 4. After all, you need a couple of flight attendants to take care of you on those long trips, and we do mean long. The G650 can fly nonstop from New York to Dubai, and get this, still go another 1,000 nautical miles. And it is the fastest certified business jet with a top speed of Mach 0.925, at least for now. Cessna says that the Citation 10 will be certified for Mach 0.935. The race is on. Stay tuned. The U.S. Air Force recently took delivery of a brand new Bombardier Global 6000 at Bradley International Airport in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. The Global 6000 is our cover story in AOPA Pilot's Turbine Edition this month, and Pete Bedell flew it from the same airport, giving us this first-hand look at a sophisticated machine.
We're here with the Bombardier Global 6000. Now this is the latest version of Bombardier's Global Express, and that name's been retired. Now they're basically naming them after the mileage, and this is the 6000, so naturally it has about a 6,000 mile range. It also has the new Vision cockpit by Rockwell Collins, and it has synthetic vision and enhanced vision, and obviously lots of great bells and whistles for us as pilots, and the passengers will love it as well.
JetBlue 1215, contact
the biggest difference, the biggest improvement on this cockpit versus the XRS or the Global Express is in the type of screens themselves. These are LCD screens versus the old CRTs, and we're able to put a lot more on these screens than we could on the old CRTs.
So having flown previous Global Expresses, the cockpit environment, I see we've got leather-clad everything and carbon fiber trim and brushed aluminum. What's the difference between the old and the new?
Contact loss of
well, I know it's a much more well-appointed airplane, and I know that seems a little vain, but it is really nice. The cabin altitude is another big factor in keeping us comfortable, which keeps us more well-rested and safer in the air. The cabin altitude at 45,000 feet, which is where we do most of our cruising, is going to be about 4,500 feet.
So that allows the passengers as well as the crew to remain more alert and not so dog-tired from the effects of hypoxia, even though it is only a typical airliner being at 8,000 feet. You're in half that.
Makes a big difference.
Climate to 35,000 feet. I'm looking through the heads-up display, the HUD, which gives me a depiction of basically what's here. I'm actually seeing the terrain on the HUD itself. And we can also show the enhanced vision through the HUD as well. You can choose synthetic vision or enhanced vision. We've already switched over to Mach. We're climbing at 8.3 Mach.
I'm going to speed us up to 8.5. That's normal.
All right, we'll do it.
It transitioned automatically.
Up here, we're in the clouds, as you guys can see. I have been looking through this synthetic vision, seeing the terrain that's outside, and actually having to remind myself to go like this and say, oh, we're in the clouds.
And that's why I put the anti-ice on auto.
We have an automatic de-icing. The airplane will sense ice on this probe. This probe vibrates. When it feels there's ice on there, it'll warm it up and take it off. Of course, in the cockpit it's saying we have ice. It'll automatically turn on all your de-icing systems. Despite the size of this airplane being close to 100,000 pounds for max takeoff weight, it actually comes in at a very slow airspeed of about, today our target speed was 116 knots, which is very slow for an airplane of this size. And it's got a big beefy trailing link main landing gear, so you come in a nice nose high attitude and it just plops right down, nice smooth landings, very easy to fly and very slow landing airplane. And at the Bradley International Airport, I'm Pete Bedell for AOPA Live. Thanks for flying with us today on the Bombardier Global 6000.
Well, not a bad way to get around for sure. The Air Force will put the Global 6000's long legs to work as a battlefield communications platform and plans to have it in service next year. A new general aviation design from Brazil has picked up fresh funding, and the company hopes to certify the four-seater in this country next year. The Novair TXC has retractable landing gear and is stressed for aerobatics, and believe it or not, pressurization is an option, along with a ballistic parachute. The company reports a cruise speed of 192 knots. Well, NASA has a new airplane and is back in the hurricane hunting business. NASA is launching Global Hawk unmanned aerial vehicles from the East Coast and then piloting them from the Dryden Center in California. A pair of Global Hawks packed with instruments are surveying the Atlantic Ocean storms to learn more about the behavior of hurricanes. This video shows Hurricane Carl at work. The AOPA Air Safety Institute has a new interactive course for you. ADS-B for General Aviation, the basics, is just what it sounds like. The fundamentals of ADS-B to help you get familiar with the new technology that is the cornerstone of NextGen. And since you'll need some form of ADS-B in your airplane by 2020, there's also a downloadable guide to help you decide when to make the switch. You can find it all at airsafetyinstitute.org/ADS-B. NextGen and ADS-B are the future of navigation, but what will happen to our current Nav-Aids? Well, most of them will go away. Some 50% of the existing VOR network will be turned off. They're the ones in red on the map. When will be determined in part by a new user advisory panel to the FAA. AOPA is working with the FAA to make the transition to NextGen as seamless as possible for general aviation pilots. The days are winding down now. AOPA Aviation Summit 2012 is just 4 weeks away. This year we are in sunny Palm Springs, California. And preparations are already underway. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop joins us from Palm Springs. Paul, I guess things are coming together quickly now.
Tom, that's right. The AOPA events staff is here in Palm Springs working to make sure that everything is ready. We are counting down the days until AOPA Aviation Summit 2012, and everything's coming together to make sure you have a great time. This plaza might be empty now, but from October 11th through the 13th, it will be filled with airplanes. Inside the Palm Springs Convention Center, it will be filled with exhibits and events. Andrea Berry and the AOPA events team are working to make sure that AOPA Aviation Summit 2012 is better than ever.
The exhibit hall is almost sold out, so we've been in there trying to figure out how to lay some of the final things out that we have going on.
The prop would actually hit.
Across town, AOPA Pilot Information Center Vice President Woody Cahall is working with city leaders to finalize plans for the Parade of Planes, where dozens of aircraft will taxi through the streets of Palm Springs. And what a perfect place to come enjoy aviation.
Palm Springs is a place where you can relax, you can enjoy yourself, and you can enjoy nature's beauty and just be in the sun.
City Manager David Reddy says the town's amenities have been enhanced even more since we were last here.
Paul, a lot of exciting things have been happening, and obviously this brand new convention center remodel has been a great addition in the Jackie Lee Houston Plaza, and you overlook the mountains. But also as importantly is our completely renovated hotel stock. Over the last 4 years, we've had about $180 million of investment in our hotels that have made them a great place to be. They're new, they're exciting, they're fun to be at, it's hip, and everyone's going to have a great time.
In addition to the fresh look, there's been a lot of work done to make AOPA Aviation Summit a great value for your dollar.
Partners have come together to provide great discounts and unique opportunities for you to enjoy our destination at a much better price. For example, the Spa Casino has put together $25 tickets. There's discounts to the Air Museum. There's a concert on Wednesday night. We have this beautiful new statue of Marilyn Monroe that just got moved here from Chicago.
There's a ton of things to enjoy while you're here, but most of all is the hospitality of a city of people who are thrilled to welcome you to Summit.
Literally, we feel like AOPA is part of our community now. They're looking forward to having all the planes come in and all of the attendees come in, and you're going to be treated like family.
And what I'd like to do is Paul, is welcome all the members of AOPA back to Palm Springs. We're very excited you're here, and we look forward to working with you to make this one of your most successful events ever.
And Tom, as I was out shooting some video last night for the piece, I ran into some local folks. They know what AOPA Aviation Summit is. They're very excited to have all the pilots and all the airplanes back in town. So if you haven't registered, go to aopa.org/summit to get all the details. We are in Palm Springs, California, counting down the days to Summit 2012. Paul Harrop, AOPA Live. Tom, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. And a reminder, your last chance to pre-register for the AOPA Summit in Palm Springs is Friday the 14th. Find out more on our website, aopa.org/summit. Well, as they like to say in the cockpit announcements, sit back and relax. You and your family can enjoy AOPA Live this week on the big screen. AOPA Live now has its own Roku channel in high definition. The inexpensive Roku box connects to your TV and connects to a huge universe of video programs, including AOPA Live this week. You can find out more at aopa.org/Romeo Oscar Kilo Uniform. That's Roku. Coming up, a bull in the passenger seat and wheeling it on. We'll be right back.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. Well, you'd think by now they'd have gotten the message, but apparently they haven't. So Wednesday, Congressman Sam Graves, who chairs the House Committee on Small Business, conducted a hearing on the administration's proposed $100 user fee, and it wasn't well received.
We do not have an army of accountants standing by to process a bunch of $100 per flight invoices from some new federal bureaucracy. And quite frankly, our country does not need some new SkyRS, complete with auditors, billing agents, and collectors.
AOPA was represented at the hearing by small business owner Brad Pierce, who flies a Cirrus SR-22 to service his customers in the restaurant business. Most of the committee members were very skeptical of user fees.
It is very evident, and 195 of my colleagues, which signed the letter that imposing a per-flight user fee on operations in the aviation industry is a very bad policy. It's going to add to an already massive federal bureaucracy, and it's going to create a lot of unnecessary financial and regulatory burdens on small businesses. My job and the job of this committee is going to be to watch very carefully what happens when we do a omnibus bill at the end of the year, spending bill, to make sure that user fees are not in that particular piece of legislation.
Congressman Graves also promised to do everything possible to keep user fees out of the stopgap budget legislation Congress will have to pass before the end of the year. Well, before the end of your flying career, you will have to make an emergency descent. That maneuver is now part of the practical test standards, so your CFI may ask for an emergency descent during your flight review. AOPA flight training editor Ian Twombly shows us how to do it.
The emergency descent, it's a new task on the private pilot practical test standards, so new private pilot applicants will be required to do it. But it's also a great brush up for certificated pilots as well. The point is to get down low or on the ground as fast as possible while also maintaining aircraft control. Start by pulling the power back to idle. No point in coming down with power here. When you do the maneuver for real, you'll want to reduce power quickly, but be nice to your engine in training and pull it back slowly and smoothly. Flap and gear position aren't specified in the PTS, but most people recommend making the airplane as draggy as possible. So once below gear speed, drop it, and once below flap speed, deploy full flaps.
Now it's time to get down. Point the nose down to VFE, or the maximum flap extended speed, and bank 30 degrees so you stay over a target and get a good view and keep things under control. And then you spiral down to the altitude you want.
This is the only difficult part of the maneuver. As you spiral down, you must keep an eye outside for traffic and divide your attention inside the airplane to make sure you're not exceeding speed or getting into an unusual attitude. If you're taking your practical test, don't be surprised if the examiner starts talking gibberish to you at this point. He's trying to distract you, which you will almost certainly be in a real emergency. At a predetermined altitude, roll out of the bank, slowly and smoothly pull back on the yoke to level flight, and add cruise power. Flaps and gear should come up in increments. Be careful again here not to exceed flapper gear speed.
The emergency descent. It's quick, easy, kind of fun, and really useful. So make sure you practice it. I'm Ian Twombly for AOPA Live.
Well, what happens when you really don't want to descend? That was the case last week in northern Idaho. Pilot Dwayne Reitz took off in his tail dragger only to hear the tower tell him he'd lost a wheel. He flew for 2 hours to burn off fuel, then touched down at Lewiston-Nez Perce Airport. As you can see, he does a great job of holding it off until he runs out of aileron.
You keep flying the airplane. The airplane flies just fine without a wheel on it. And I just did the best I could to land it as slow as I could and keep that landing gear off the ground as long as possible.
Reitz was not injured in the accident, and it's clear he kept cool and calmly thought through the best way to handle the emergency. Good job. Well, according to the New York Times, it took the FAA quite some time to approve this lighthearted Virgin Atlantic safety video.
For the 0.0001% of you who have never operated a seatbelt before, it works like this. Just insert the metal end into the buckle until it clicks, and pull on the loose end to tighten. Be sure the seatbelt fits low and tight across your lap, and you're good to go.
Perhaps you noticed the bull in the center seat. Originally, it was a dog, but someone within the FAA bureaucracy thought that passengers seeing that might think that they had to put a seatbelt on their dog. Service dogs and canines in cages that fit under the seat do travel in the cabin. It took something like 6 months of changing dogs to bulls and other things before the FAA finally would sign off on the video.
Take a moment to look around and find your closest exit. This may be behind you. Go on. We'll wait.
It's important that somebody worries about such things. Your gas taxes at work, I guess. When we come back, AOPA in China. Stay tuned.
Flight following didn't call out an opposing plane. I saw it on the screen. He turned right and the other plane just pretty much flew right on by. It's your life. You only get one shot at this.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. As many of you may know, there is an international organization that represents aircraft owners and pilots all over the world. IAOPA is headquartered here in Frederick, and Craig Spence is the IAOPA Secretary General, just one of the many hats he wears around here. He just returned from meeting with the pilots in the newly formed and very active AOPA China.
At the invitation of our affiliate, AOPA China, I was invited to make a presentation at the second Low Altitude Economic Summit, which was held in Shenyang. I was then able to go up to Fuku, which is about a 2.5-hour bus ride north of Shenyang for their first ever fly-in. We would know it as a general aviation air show. And then I was down in Shanghai touring their exhibition and show that they had down there.
Now, there are some big changes coming in China. You mentioned the Low Altitude Summit, and that's where some of the changes are coming, and it's very important, isn't it?
It's huge. There was an important announcement that they're expecting to have a major announcement by the end of the year on how they will free up the low-altitude airspace for general aviation use.
And as it stands right now in China, in order to fly from major city to major city, you have to file a flight plan usually more than 24 hours in advance. It has to be approved by the military, and it's...
Exactly. It's a rather cumbersome process. The good thing is that the Chinese government realizes what general aviation can do for China, and they've made it as part of their 12th fifth-year plan to develop a general aviation infrastructure. And that goes everything from manufacturing to the fixed base operators to the airports, releasing the low-altitude airspace. So there's a lot of progress and a lot of wheels in motion right now, but they still have a lot of work to do.
Tell us a little bit about the air show. I guess this would have been the first general aviation air show in China. Right?
First general aviation air show. They were scheduled last year to have one. Unfortunately, there was an accident involving a Robinson helicopter the week before, and the government canceled it. The good part about this is the crowd was just unbelievable. They had expected 10,000. The official estimate I have not received yet, but I would easily estimate it at triple that. There were people parked all along the roads to get in. They were lined on both sides of the airport, outside of the fence. Show lasted about 2.5 hours. Well attended. The governor of the province was there. The mayor was there. The biggest thing that you could tell, though, was the interest of the people. I mean, they were just fascinated looking at airplanes. And I was lucky to sit with the governor and the mayor, and they couldn't believe what the airplanes could do, and they couldn't believe that they may have the opportunity to do that in a little bit as well.
You can see more of that interview on AOPAlive.org. If you extend the downwind just a little at St. Mary's Airport in Georgia, you could wind up turning base directly above a nuclear submarine base. That has been a bone of contention with the U.S. Navy for decades. Navy commanders have repeatedly asked the community of 17,000 people to move the airport somewhere else. And the Navy fired off another salvo with a fresh letter to the FAA after skydivers operating from the airport landed on the base in late August. Local officials quickly revoked a permit for the skydiving operator. City Manager Steve Kroll tells AOP Online that the city is still investigating the possibility of moving the entire airport, but it remains to be seen if that's a feasible option. You may remember that St. Mary's was one of the airports closed for a very long time in the wake of the September 11 terrorist attacks. This week was the 11th anniversary of that attack. It's been a week of somber reflection on the people lost. It's also been a time to think about how we have persevered in those years. In the dark days following the attacks, all of aviation was shut down. It could have stayed that way, but it didn't. Today, except for some TFRs, which admittedly are a pain sometimes, general aviation has the freedom to fly the way it always has, and that's a tribute to you and your support of this organization, and we thank you. That's it for this week. We'll see you next Thursday on AOPA Live This Week. I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching.